Hey guys, in between me carrying and testing my Stretch 2 and getting the Caribbean, I got two Gonzo knives. This is one of them. This is a knife made by Gonzo, designed by Ruslan SKIMEN. It is in their Adimanti series, which is knives designed by people who are not knife designers. Ruslan is a Ukrainian YouTuber, knife enthusiast, and he repairs knives for I think 25 years. I tried to watch some of his videos, but they're all in Russian. If your Russian is better than mine, then you might get some useful information. It seems to be so. And the knife is called the NEFORMAT, and this version is called Shadow. So I don't know if that was confusing enough for you, but the main thing to remember here is the knife is designed by a guy who is not a knife designer, and this was why I wanted to get this knife. Now the model has been out for I think 1 year, maybe more, but I held off. Why? For two reasons. Number one, it's a frame lock, and I'm not the biggest fan of frame locks. I like them. I like any locking mechanism over a slip joint. Nothing wrong with a good slip joint, but I prefer a locking mechanism over a slip joint. However, I have some experience with frame locks, the most notable being this one. And you can see whenever I open the blade, the frame lock sinks to lock the blade, and you have this hole here. It sits very well in hand. This is also a flipper. Pair that with some unnecessary jimping, very aggressive, it's going to be very uncomfortable to work with without gloves. This knife is. Now, the second reason was the first versions of this came in different handle scales, but they all had a shiny pocket clip and a gray metal scale. I knew they were eventually going to come out with a blacked out version, and they did. So I said, let's try the frame lock. Upon getting the knife, I looked at it with very much curiosity. Now, I carried the knife for about 2.5 days. I checked the sharpness. It was sharp. It would slice a piece of paper cleanly. It would even shave. Not great, but it would shave. You didn't have to push very hard against the skin. It would take off hair, which was a nice thing. Now, the first thing that I do is I get out my calipers and I measure the thickness of the grind. And I also eyeball the edge angle. This was about 20 degrees per side, which is not bad. And the thickness behind the edge was 0.4 millimeters. That's 16 thousandths of an inch. Standard Endura is about 0.6 millimeters behind the edge. That's 24 thousandths of an inch. Now I reduced the edge angle to 15 degrees per side, and it's 0.5 millimeters behind the edge, which is still lower, at a lower edge angle, a lower thickness behind the grind than a standard Endura. So it makes it a better slicer than a standard Endura. That impresses me. Now, to have a large or small edge angle from the get-go, sharp or not, is not really that important if you're going to sharpen the knife anyway. It is important because it shows an attention to detail. And when you get a knife which is thinly ground, you just have to know somebody thought about that and making it a work knife, a knife that you actually pick up and work with. And this is one of those knives. You could just buy it and start cutting with it without much to. Now, of course, it cuts much better. After I sharpened it, those of you who watch my shorts, my YouTube shorts, you've seen how well I've sharpened it. I played around with it. It sharpens up very well. I like Gonzo's D2. I like their FH series. Very smooth. Now the detent on this one is not that great. You can easily shake this one out of the handle. I don't know, here over the table, yeah, it goes. I've tried to do the same with the NEFORMAT. Doesn't work. You can't shake this out. The detent is quite strong, and I noticed that first time when I tried to open it, I pressed on the flipper and it came out really hard. And then the second time, somehow it came out easier. And I tried to do this with my left hand and I couldn't. And then I realized immediately I was holding my finger, in this case my thumb, over the frame lock here, my middle finger. And that creates just too much tension. And in this position, I can't even. You can see how hard I'm pushing. I can't flip it out. Remove your thumb from the frame lock and it comes out immediately. That's one thing I noticed, that I wasn't too crazy about. The detent is too strong. However, if you can still flip it out, and this one's on bearings, that's okay. I don't mind detent which is a bit stronger. And once you get used to a flipper, I personally use the pocket clip. Coming to that, I like this pocket clip. First of all, the design. Compared with the FH series, this looks much better. I mean, day and night. Put this in your pocket, goes way easier in your pocket because it rests on smooth metal and sits in very deep, which is what an everyday carry knife should be, in my opinion. Now, work knives, sometimes you don't want a deep carry pocket clip. You're going to be working, dirty hands, you don't want to put the hand deep in your pocket. You want to have a shallow carry pocket clip sometimes for an EDC knife, and this is well made. Now, in my Civivi Elementum video, I talked about their pocket clip on the Civivi Elementum, of course. And that one's thin, it's nice, doesn't have a great design. When I work with it, it's not uncomfortable in hand, but it moves. Now, this one is not uncomfortable in hand, which is one thing that I really appreciate. And probably because it sits lower, closer to the scale, it doesn't bother me when I cut. It doesn't move around, and it doesn't bother me. That might also be for a different reason, because this knife is a bit small for my hand. When I hold it like this, the flipper will press into my index finger. And if I try to hold it more towards the bottom of the knife, I'll feel the fact that it's slightly curved and there's less thickness, less width here. So I carried the knife for 2 days, 2.5 days actually, and I didn't do that much cutting with it. I did cut some cardboard, some pieces of wood, just for testing, and that's when I noticed these things. For an EDC knife, I think this is going to be fine. But if you have hands as large as mine or larger than mine, and need to do a lot of work with this, it might be uncomfortable. As an EDC knife, I think the action's good. Comfort in hand, really nice. Now, one thing that I didn't like. Usually when I get a new knife, if there's something special about it, in this case, for me, there is. Because, like I said, it was designed by a guy who is not a knife designer, a YouTuber, guy who repairs knives, and I really wanted to disassemble the knife, and I couldn't. They use a lot of thread locker here, and I actually heated up this part, and I tried to open this part. I actually stripped a Torx bit, and I thought I also messed up the screw, but the screw is fine. There's some small scratches here, but the screw is fine. My Torx bit ruined, and I heard it loud, and I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" But I couldn't open it. I tried various times heating it up, didn't work. This is one thing I didn't like. Too much, I mean, way too much thread locker. I've seen a lot of thread locker and other companies. And I didn't want to force it. I mean, it's a new knife. It was just my curiosity, and I said, okay, before I break something on it, let me just play with it around. I will, of course, at some point disassemble the knife. But this was one thing that I didn't like. And coming to things that I didn't, well, that just got in the way, it's this funky grind. You see, you have this wedge here, and then it stops abruptly here. Visually, it might not look bad. Looks okay. But if you're using a sharpening system like I am, the Work Sharp Precision Adjust, it really got in the way. If you sharpen this by hand, not going to have a problem with it. However, that's kind of it with the things I didn't like. The fact that they use too much thread locker, and I didn't really understand this. The fact that it has a larger or greater detent than needed, not bad. Not being able to shake the knife open, for me, it's not a negative. And the fact that if you put your fingers on the frame lock and it gets a bit tougher to open, not an issue. But there are a lot of advantages and nice design features. You see, like I showed you on the ZT0561, when the frame lock locks the blade, there's this huge hole here. It's not as big with this one. And once again, it doesn't bother me. Maybe because it's so close to the flipper and the knife has a smaller handle, I can't really feel this, but there is not really a corner. That's what I want to say. It's neatly rounded. And I appreciate a rounded handle. I mean, the liners inside here are not really sharp. They are at a 90-degree angle, but they're not sharp. They're not bothering you in any way. I like that. The only corners that are really sharp are these two here. I'm not a fan of glass breakers because mostly they are sharp. This one isn't. This one has a nice ceramic ball here, which from what I've seen from tests works really well. I never tested a glass breaker, never really thought I needed one. I understand how they can be useful, but if they're there, they shouldn't bother you, and this one doesn't. That's also a nice design feature that I liked. Just like jimping, if it's there, it shouldn't bother you. And this one I think is well made. You can tell where you are on the blade. I tried pushing on the jimping to see while cutting. I usually don't cut like this, but lately I've been doing this just to test out the jimping with a lot of knives. And it doesn't bother me. As hard as I push on the jimping, I can feel it's there. I can feel it provides some extra traction, but it doesn't hold my thumb from sliding. It's mainly there for indexing, which is, I think, the good thing to use jimping for indexing, to know exactly, oh, I'm slipping on the blade. Oh, I'm here. I don't want to go any further. Oh, okay. That's, in my opinion, what jimping should be used for. And talking about nice designs that you may not need, but you appreciate. You see, with frame locks, especially titanium ones, you sometimes get this over travel stop for the frame lock, so you don't overextend it and break it. And here they did it too. Ruslan thought about this in a very nice way. First of all, whenever you get aluminium on steel or titanium on steel, you may get lock stick. Such was the case for this knife. With this one, put a metal insert here, and you see that. You see the screw that holds the metal insert. So the blade will sit steel on steel. So there will be no lock stick. Great. And now what about the over travel stop? It's here, but it's on the inside. You see the plate is slightly larger, and I don't know if you can see in here. There it is. Oh, and you don't have to see it or feel it. And another thing which I liked, whenever you have a frame lock, you have to have a cutout here. And you see this cutout? For most knives, it's done like this. And here the pocket clip gets in the way. That's more uncomfortable. But if you remove the pocket clip, you will feel this, especially if you have the tactical jimping. I mean, you can saw wood with this jimping. It's amazing. But here, it's on the inside. So you have a nice flush line, which is pleasant to look at. And it doesn't bother you. These corners are a bit sharp. I've just noticed them now, but they never bothered me. I just happen to graze my finger on them, and yes, they are sharp, but they never bother me. I just noticed that right now. So more elegant solutions for a few things which are useful, but you don't really need or want to see them. Just like the lanyard hole. A lot of people don't want a lanyard hole on their knives, me included. And you have a lanyard hole for those people who want a lanyard hole. That's great. Now the FH series has done this a lot. Here you go, lanyard hole. You don't need a hole in the handle. For some, they didn't. For some, they just put a hole in the handle. But for this one, yeah, it's an elegant solution. And I like that. Some people really like a lanyard hole. And you give them what they want, and some people don't want it. And you give them what they want, and you do it all in a very elegant design. Now, the shortcoming for lefties is the fact that if you want to switch the pocket clip from right to left, you can see this part of the G10 you're going to have to file down. Now, I honestly did not think about this. I think I watched a YouTuber who did it, and he used a small file, was done in a few minutes. Or he talked about doing this, showed it, I'm not sure. But this was not something that I considered. I always carry my knives. I should start thinking about the lefties. So, yeah, but that's not really a problem. I mean, it's G10, a small metal, a small diamond file will get the job done. Yeah, it would be nice, but then you would have these sharp corners, and then If you're going to do it, you're going to have the sharp corners on this side. It just depends on what you like. For me, it's not a shortcoming. For you, if you're a lefty, yeah, it might be. The action smooth. I like the design that went into the knife. As an EDC knife, I think it's great. Now, it is D2, and I've seen a lot of people talk about D2 with rusts. I think Gonzo's D2 is heat treated very well. I never had it rust. This one, I produced a grind. I prefer a thinner grind. I mean, a larger edge angle, you can correct that. You have a sharpening system, it goes really easy. You can do it by hand, sandpaper even, anything works. But if you have to thin out the grind, like I would have to do on this one, I mean, that would be a lot of work. This is LMAX, but I was talking about D2. I never had problems with D2 rusting. And if you want to wash a D2 knife, if you're going to work with it, if you're going to use it as a fishing knife, if you wash it out and just shake it dry, wipe it off as good as you can, put it in your pocket, I don't think you're going to get any rust on it. I never did that. Not that I didn't wash the knives. I did sometimes wash my D2 knives, the FH series, just wipe them off and put them in my pocket like that, and I never got rust spots anywhere. Salt water may do it. Now this one is also coated, and the coating is very similar to the one I have on my American Lawman. It's a bit shiny. I don't know if it comes off on video, and as soon as you cut something, there's a streak here, and then you just wipe your fingers on it and it's gone. 2.5 days of using it will not show that wear. I did strop the knife a bit to see if it comes back. I mean, it had a hair splitting sharp edge, and it doesn't have that, but it still has a hair shaving sharp edge. Slices paper, just like all the other D2 from Gonzo, I think. Not much different there. Overall, I have to say, I like the knife. As an EDC knife, I appreciate how well it goes in the pocket. Even though, like I said, the pocket clip is very close to the scale and it's not very lifted. You know, if it's too curved upwards, you might snag it on a lot of things. With regular jeans, even though you see how small this dimension is, it went in the pocket really well because it sits on the metal liner, and the design, I just like the design. And if you just spend a minute to look at it, there's a nice curve here. See that? How well the curve of the frame. I'm not one to notice these things, but just in sitting there and looking at the knife, and I was very, very curious about this knife because, like I said, it was designed by a YouTuber, a guy who's a knife enthusiast. The guy repairs knives. He cares a lot about knives, and he thought about a lot of nice things, and he implemented them. And I would really like to see more of this. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, who can design a perfect knife? But what he designed here, and from my understanding, it's not exactly what he wanted. He wanted a hollow ground blade, some premium steel. The version I think he got one with titanium handle scales. It's about 90 grams, S35 VN, a hollow ground blade, which of course it's going to be a better slice or a hollow ground blade, and it looks fantastic. But this is what a lot of his design points, and I appreciate them. I really do. I like the knife. Yeah, it's a bit heavy. Personally, I don't mind the weight. I don't know how heavy it is. Some people talked about this. I think he mentioned that it's a bit too heavy for him. He doesn't like it. For me, I mean, this one weighs about 200 grams. I don't mind. I have no issues with that. For me, it's more how it sits in the pocket. This one sits in the pocket, goes in the pocket very easily. Retrieving the knife as an EDC knife, it's not that important. I mean, I don't look at it from a tactical point of view where I have to retrieve my knife really fast and flick it open. I don't do that. I just have to be able to retrieve it neatly without great force. And when I have to put it back in my pocket, I mostly wear jeans. Shouldn't give me a problem with jeans. With cargo pants, I think this will go in your pocket much easier. But like I said, with jeans, I had no issues. So yeah, this is the Shadow. I just call it that. And I hope I sincerely hope that in the future, Gonzo will work with regular people, YouTubers, knife enthusiasts, and design more knives, no matter what they are, no matter what the design. I think I will pick them up just out of curiosity. I hope they won't be frame locks, but hey, but I think it's great. I think it's great, and just seeing what somebody else thought of, and just, I mean, I'm gonna ramble on about this, but I like this pocket clip. There are other pocket clips like this with a big hole here in the middle, and but for me, this one, the pocket clip, and when I noticed how well it sits near, because I thought, oh, is it gonna sit on? That's my first thought. Is it gonna sit on the frame lock? And no, it doesn't. And then I looked, and oh, the cutout of the frame lock is also neatly curved, and the whole. Yeah, I think that's just neat. Maybe if this was a production knife, just a regular Gonzo FH series, I wouldn't have looked at it the way I do, knowing that just this guy designed it. I don't know the guy, watched some of his videos. Like I said, my Russian is a bit rusty to say at best. But yeah, that's why personally I liked it. And I think I will show you the next Gonzo knife in a few weeks. That was mainly a curiosity. I just wanted to see what they can do with that design. But yeah, the Adimanti series. I hope to see more of this. Please, guys, let me know what you think. Do you have the NEFORMAT? Do you like it? What are the weak spots? Do you have the same problem? Because I've seen a lot of people, they had to heat up and just to disassemble this knife. But at the same point, I mean, it is coated, and I like the coating. I have to say, I like the coat. It doesn't wear off easily. It says here DLC. I mean, diamond light coating can be anything for anybody. But let me know. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or information for me, I would highly appreciate it. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, I wish you all a great day.